line with us now. Joining us on the Comcast Business Hotline, Bounce Forward, is the one and only Adam Schefter. And Connor, Adam is brought to us by...
Adam's brought to us by DraftKings. DraftKings is giving away up to $100 million in prizes to all their customers. Download the DraftKings app and sign up using code FANATIC. Then enter a free football survivor pool. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Without further ado, ESPN's Adam Schefter. Adam, how you doing today, buddy?
Good morning, guys. How are we doing today?
How you doing, Adam?
Great. How's
We
things?
got Bob and Connor today?
We got Bob and Andrew today.
Hello,
yes,
Adam.
Andrew today. Okay, I just want to make sure I got it clear.
We got
Bob
a lot
and
of
Andrew
shaking
today.
up and things, sicknesses going on. I don't know if you heard Jamie Lynch's father passed away the other night, Adam. So he's out for a while. Pat Egan has tested positive for COVID. So we're just, we're holding on by our fingernails, but we're getting it done. And getting it done is what the NFL decided to do last night. You have Dez Bryant, the big story today. Dez Bryant comes out, finds out he tests positive. The film comes out that he's hugging and kissing players before the game. Just your thoughts on all that, Adam, and how it played out last night.
Well, my question watching it was, after the fact, how is a player who had an inconclusive test allowed on the field to warm up? And if that is the case, how is he allowed to go near anybody else? Like, that, to me, is going to take something that necessitates looking at the rules again. Now, look, the way it was explained to me, his test was not reported as inconclusive until he was already on the field. And the bioreferences lab is in New Jersey, so that's why it came back so quickly. Now, that comes from me from very smart, connected people.
Okay,
so I'm just telling you that's exactly what happened. The league said his test was not reported as inconclusive until he was on the field. The lab is in Jersey, so that's why the test came back quickly. Now, it doesn't change the fact, I guess, like they didn't know the inconclusive. Okay, to me, once he's inconclusive, he's already hugged and kissed everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Shefty, here's my question on that real quick. What is the normal timing of testing? I know it is all crazy, and there's no, conclusive, he tested here, and he probably wasn't affecting people there and all. We don't know that as a country, let alone as an NFL. But what is their rule of getting tests back prior to game, like the timing of it all?
Hey, Bob, this is very weird. You're on a landline and I'm on a landline, but it's bouncing like crazy. How could that be?
Oh, it's bouncing me talking to you?
Okay, a little bit, yeah. So, because I couldn't hear the question very well.
Okay, so I'm just wondering on what is the normal timing of trying to get tests back prior to games? Is there one?
I don't know the specific answer. I think it depends on the market and where you're at. For example, last night, Baltimore was not far from Jersey. They get the test there as quickly as they can. I think there are certain teams I know, like I think New England is right by a lab, and the Giants and Jets are not far from a lab. And so it all depends on to your proximity to the lab, but I have not gone in-depth in that to have specific answers for you.
Okay. All right. No problem there. So that's the national level that we'll hit on first, but now we have to bring it local, Shefty. Some pretty big news here yesterday. The 120...
Hey, Bob, I'm going to call you right back.
Okay. Call us back. No problem.
I'll call you right back.
No problem. So Shefty's going to call us back. He's on a different line. He's got to call us from that hot cell phone. He's probably got a lot going on.
Oh, there's probably a lot of buzzing, man, on the cell phone.
Yeah, so Shefty's... How many phones do you think he has? He's got to have multiple.
He definitely has 2 or 3, for sure.
Oh, yeah, he's got stuff going on.
He's a professional, man.
He's the man. He's got so much work.
Right back. Look at that.
He's got so much work going on in that mansion of his that, it's tough for him to use the landline, probably. He was in the West Wing, and the West Wing doesn't sound all that good. But we got him back. I think we got him back here right now. Shefty, you got us?
Yeah, it's so weird because I'm on a landline that's a new landline phone. Like, I don't know how that could be happening. It's very weird, and I hear you perfectly fine right now.
Yeah, I think the west wing of your house, I don't think has the best landline. I think you have to go over to the east wing of your mansion, and that's where it's better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
But, Shefty, what I was going to ask you before we got cut off was we want to bring it local. The big news probably in the NFL yesterday, besides the Dez Bryant, is that Jalen Hurts is your starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Your $128 million franchise quarterback takes a seat. What is the feeling with you throughout the NFL of this move that was made yesterday?
Yeah. By the way, I'm
I'm curious to know why we started with Dez when we've got the biggest quarterback situation in the league.
Because I just wanted to get the national out of the way.
What I would say is this, that I think everybody knows Carson's struggling right now, and he's struggling, it seems like, mentally as much as anything else. And when I was talking to a GM yesterday from another team, the exact words he used to me were gangly and uncoordinated. He said, when I watch him, he looks gangly and uncoordinated.
Wow.
And I think that they just needed to hit the mental reset button with him a little bit. And it doesn't mean that this is forever, but it's right now. And it's right now, and it gives Jalen Hurts a chance to show what he can do and for them to see the kind of player he can be. And they are kind of married to Carson for a little bit of time here. Like, there's not a lot that they can do. But it doesn't change the fact that I think that they know that they've got to shake up the current situation, and that's what they've done. And so the question is now, I think there's a short term here, and there's a long term here. And in the short term, it's Jalen Hurts' job. In the long term, nobody knows how this is going to play out. And that's kind of where we're at right now. But I do believe that the decision to go to Jalen Hurts was pretty unanimous within that organization.
Shefty, are you up enough on the contract of Carson Wentz to just let the people know in layman's terms, because there's so much going around? Oh, trade him, do this, do that. Can you just explain how it's pretty hard to do it and what the numbers are?
Yeah, basically, they are married to him financially really for the next year in all probability. Like, if we look at the contract and just break it down, it's if they were to trade him on March 10th this year, it would be a $59.2 million acceleration. Okay, so that really is not feasible. It's not until 2022 that they begin to have some options and some flexibility there that they don't have right now. Now, here's the question. I remember a trade that that the Houston Texans made with the Cleveland Browns, where the Texans traded Brock Osweiler and a 2 Cleveland for Cleveland to take Brock Osweiler's contract. My question is there something out there like that, as crazy as that sounds, where you say to Team X, you come up with the team, Denver, Indianapolis, Chicago, whoever, right? Any team that needs a quarterback. Okay, we'll trade you Carson Wentz and a 2, and you absorb 75% of his contract. I'm just making up numbers here.
Right. So that would be something that could be feasible.
I need to look into it, honestly. I need to look into it to see, because the numbers are so big. But that Brock Osweiler trade, when it came down, was so out of the box. And so I don't know what out-of-the-box scenarios there are with this guy that exist. They're complex. But, again, I'm going to do some digging this week and figure that out.
Adam, when it came to the decision itself, Doug Peterson was pretty adamant during his press conference on Sunday and on Monday and yesterday when he announced it that it was solely his decision. So I got to ask you, at this point in the season, you're 3-8-1, right? This isn't middle of the season. You're still in the hunt. Yeah, technically you're still in the running for the NFC East because of how bad it is. But you're 3-8-1. There's reports that Doug Peterson's on the hot seat, and it's coming from somewhere. Was this really solely Doug Peterson's decision, or is this something that you think he sat down with guys like Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie to decide on?
Well, no, I think it's his decision, of course. I really do. But I do think ultimately in the end, he sits down and says, guys, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm thinking of doing. However it plays out like that. But it was his decision. His decision, and then you go from there and fill in the other people who obviously would be curious and involved in something like this, and you let them know what's going on. And by the way, like I said, I think everybody agreed with the decision. They were on board with it. Everybody felt like it was the right move for this time in this franchise. So I don't think it's like they gather into a room and he solicits the opinions of everybody. I think he knew everybody thought that this was the right move. And Doug, as the coach of the team, made that decision.
Schefter, what do you think could be the best case scenario that comes out of this and the worst case scenario that comes out of this?
The best case would be that you find out that Jalen Hurts can play and he can be a quarterback for the future. The best case is that Carson hits a mental reset and comes back like the MVP candidate that he once was. That's the best case. You get one of those two, maybe both. Worst case is Jalen Hurts is exposed and you recognize that he's not good enough to play as a regular starting quarterback in this league. And you don't know what to do with Carson. So those would be the various case scenarios of how this works.
Going back to your best case, let's say Jalen Hurts just has an incredible run these next 4 weeks. What do you think's more likely to happen then? Because it's going to be tough to have him play very well. Then there's going to be the whole quarterback controversy throughout the offseason. You start the season with Carson Wentz as the quarterback, Jalen Hurts as the backup. Or is there also a possibility that if he plays really well, we know what the NFL is. It's a league where you need a good quarterback. Could they actually ship Jalen Hurts? Is there value there if he plays well these final 4 weeks?
It's an interesting question, and I would say that anything is possible. Yeah. I mean, look, he is on the Eagles roster. He's basically their property, right? And so just like Carson Wentz is their property. So you're just trying to figure out that they're assets for these teams. You want your assets to have the most value possible, right? Whether Carson Wentz has the most value, whether Jalen Hurts has the most value, you want your assets to be at a maximum so that if you decide to move on from one of them, you can recoup as much as you can. And that's the idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, go back. The idea came up last night. Jimmy Johnson back in the day drafted Steve Walsh in the first round when they used the first overall pick on Troy Aikman. He did it because they were assets that had value. And so when you have that, you'd look for Jalen Hurts to light it up, and you feel like Carson's your guy. Well, yeah, you could trade Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts lights it up, you stick with him. Now you explore all the scenarios that we're talking about what it would be to move on from Carson. There's so many ways this can go that it's really hard to forecast. And by the way, who's going to be the head coach?
Exactly. The way, however this plays out, Schefter, there are so many story angles here in Philadelphia. From the coach.
It's terrible for you guys. Like, it gives you guys nothing to talk about.
Yeah, right? From the head coach, from the GM, the quarterbacks, whatever it may be. It's I don't want to say it's fun times because I don't like people to lose jobs, but it's very interesting times here in Philadelphia. But we're going to do a little switch on you here, Schefter. We got to talk a little NBA. James Harden came out yesterday, said, hey, Philadelphia, you want to talk to them about me? Go right ahead. What do you think? Would he be a good fit getting rid of Ben Simmons and or Joel Embiid? So if James Harden comes in, he would be fit with that. What do you think? Where does that take the Sixers if he joins those two?
Hold on. So you're telling me that there's a scenario under which they would get James Harden without having to surrender either of those two big guys?
Because you have another max contract in Tobias Harris. He would be the guy that has to go. You sprinkle in some other guys. Maybe you sprinkle in the veteran contract of a Danny Green, of a Seth Curry, whatever it may be. You throw in a Matisse Thybulle, maybe the number one pick. Whatever you do, you can make it work without getting rid of those two. And Daryl Morey, if he stays true to his word, he said he does not want to get rid of either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid.
Well, of course not. Of course not. But I cannot imagine a scenario, a package. What is the package that they would have to trade for James Harden? Okay, so again, we're just thinking out loud. So it's Tobias Harris. It's
who has a max contract? Yeah.
Okay, it's Matisse Thybulle. It's
say you throw in one of the veterans of Danny Green and or Seth Curry. So the money's going to match. You can match the money without losing Simmons or Embiid. It's a case of
and then how many number one picks? 3, 4?
Yeah, you throw some in there. You might throw the pick in that you took this year also. But there is a scenario. Look, we're playing fantasy basketball here. If the Sixers could get a James Harden and keep a Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, where does that catapult them in your mind, Shefty?
Oh, not enough basketballs to go around, not enough fun to go around, not enough wins to go. They are right there. Talent-wise, they can compete with anybody there. That's hard for me to imagine them being able to pull it off. You see them having a hard time processing that, like how they get James Harden out of there without having to give up a superstar. Tobias Harris is a good player. But James Harden's a superstar.
Yeah, and look, this is like I said, we're playing fantasy basketball here. If we want to go to reality, if I'm Houston, I have to bring on money. You have to match salaries. You have to bring on money because you have to match the salary cap floor. Otherwise, you get penalized. You say to your fan base, without saying to your fan base, yes, we're tanking, but we're getting a decent player in Tobias Harris. We're getting a lot of young players with a Matisse Thybulle, with number 1 picks. You are in a rebuild. You probably could sell it if you're Houston. And the more that James Harden says he wants out, I think, and Andrew and I were talking about this earlier, that is, and you know this too, Shefty, the value goes down and down the more he stays there.
It does go down and down, and he's certainly contributing to driving it down. At the same time, he's still James Harden, and, again, they have said wisely that they are willing to get uncomfortable with that, and that's the right approach. James Harden, again, is a valuable asset. And so, man.
Eastern Conference favorites if he comes to this team and you keep Simmons and Embiid?
Well, I'm going to say they're the favorites, but they're right there. They're right there.
Okay.
They're right there. They're right there with Milwaukee. Absolutely right there. Yeah. What do you think? You tell me.
Absolutely. I do. Yeah, I really do. Of course. James Harden coming in here, he doesn't have to be that 35, 10, and 10 guy every night. Can he be? Sure. But you have 2 other players with him, the likes that he's never seen before. I think it would be wild. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't. But I think it would be wild if they could pull something off like that.
To me, they have to give up more than that. And to me, when I heard him connect to Philadelphia, my first thought was, okay, are they giving up Embiid or are they giving up Simmons? Because that to me is how that happens. Now, I could be totally wrong, and so we're back to the conversation we had on the show a couple of weeks back. Would you trade one of those guys for him, and would it be worth it?
Right.
And that's a Daryl Morey decision. So we'll see what he decides to do with that. But clearly, James Harden's not happy. Clearly, he's looking to try to get out of there.
Sure, he's as good as gone. So it's just a matter of
you say he's as good as gone. So yeah, I don't know how. I don't know whether it's salvageable or not, but I could just tell that he wants out of there.
Yeah. And I'm not into like teams owing players, but they kind of owe it to him. All right, he wants out. If you get something back for him, you're not going to win with just James Harden there anymore. So
how about this, Bob? I got a headline for you. Last week we had our NBA fantasy draft lottery.
Oh, where are you picking? Wait, how many teams? First of all, you have like 14, 12?
14 in this league. They added 2 more this year, which I didn't know. I was unaware of that until after the draft, and so. I want you to know the league, the NBA league, is about 5 years old, and I've never had a pick higher than 8, ever. I've always been 8, 11, 12. And this year, there's one guy that I was absolutely dying to get. I wanted him last year, and in all the mocks, he was projected to go 18, 19, 20. I had the 11th pick last year, and I was absolutely taking the guy ahead of where he was being projected, good Doncic.
Oh, I knew that's who you were going to say. So what number did you get this year?
So I wanted to have number, I wanted to be as high as possible, obviously. I got this year the number 1 pick.
Oh, nice. Can you reveal?
I will announce it here exclusively per sources.
Number 1.
At number 1, ahead of Greek, ahead of Harden, ahead of Karl Anthony Towns, ahead of Anthony.
It's you. I like it. Now, Shefty, real quick before we have to get out of here, here's our theme that we've been going with today, our fun question of the day, something that his wife does that really gets on his nerves. And we're not talking major thing. We're talking little things that your wife does that just kind of tweaks you a little bit. Do you have one that your wife does to you, or maybe something that you do that really gets under her skin?
Now, everything I do gets under her skin, but I would say that that even when I'm here, I'm not here. Like I'm present, but I'm not present.
Yep, we've all been there.
I've gotten that.
Okay, and so she gets mad at that, and then we'll be sitting at the dinner table, and the phone rings, and it's somebody calling, and so I take the phone, and she's like, "Okay, I get it. You got to take the phone. If you need to take the phone call, get up from the table and go into the next room."
Right.
So now that's basically what I do. The phone rings. It's somebody with some news information, whatever. I see the caller ID. I go into the next room. I take the phone call. I come back, and life goes on. And she's been certainly more understanding about it.
There you go. All right, Shefty, listen, we greatly appreciate you joining us. Stay safe, please. We'll hear from you again next week. Hope you have a great week, and we will talk to you next Wednesday.
And likewise, guys, I appreciate it. Hope everything calms down there. Hope everybody gets back soon, and we'll move from there.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. The great Adam